Hi, folks. With Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio, no pictures, live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the expansion, the proliferation of fake adverts, online adverts. And it doesn't matter whether you're looking at real estate or anything at all. But in this presentation, I'll be talking about job adverts. Now, I was doing an online meeting with the CEO and some of his goons at this particular company we're doing business with, and he mentioned in passing that they were running job adverts now for yet to happen, so future possible approvals of budget and headcount for the next quarter. So this is October, November, December quarter. So they've been running adverts starting a few weeks ago for the positions and the jobs that they would like to fill if their budget and headcount request gets approved. So now this is a decent sized company, so they're running 50 odd jobs, and this is ranging from I don't know, forklift drivers, floor sweepers, business development, sales representatives. So it's across the board. So they're running all these adverts because these are the jobs they will want to fill if their headcount request and their budget requests are approved. And he just mentioned this quite casually. This is what they were doing, and it wasn't directly germane to what we were talking about. Rather more that he wanted to spend some time on that, which was going to delay a meeting we were going to have, that sort of thing. So it came up through that. So I jumped all over it, and without looking like I was jumping all over it, and asking, well, what's happening here? You mean you're advertising jobs that actually don't exist and may never exist? I mean, like, wow, isn't that sort of deceptive practices and deceptive advertising? I mean, that surely is going to be breaking a lot of laws. And why would you do it anyway? Now, the online adverts that these guys would have, they'd be a big account customer and so on, because they would spend a lot of money just generally on this. So they're probably spending somewhere between, say, in reality, $150, give or take, an advert. But that's still thousands of dollars for the range of jobs they're advertising. Remember, none of these jobs actually exist. Now, some might, or none might, or all of them might, depending on the budget approvals and the headcount approvals from head office. So they all put in, as a regional office, Australia, they put in their requests, and then the guy, as the CEO explains to me, just days before the new quarter begins, they'll get approvals. So say the new quarter begins on a Monday, it could be Friday the previous week. So one working day in effect, that they'll get, yep, okay, we've approved that, or we've approved this much, or we've approved these jobs, but not those ones, and so on. So yeah, it's short notice. So as he explains it to me, he said, look, we get actually a very narrow window from the time they approve the headcount and the budget. We then typically would put out adverts. We'd begin the interview process and the selection process, all that sort of stuff, and their psychometric testing or whatever the fuck else they do. So he's saying we'd go through all that, but then we've only got a narrow window, because in the middle of the quarter, if the numbers aren't looking that good, they'll start coming in with hiring freezes and things like that. So he said, really, from the time that the budget is agreed on, we've got somewhere between 5 to 6 weeks to actually put out the adverts, do all the hiring, and get everyone started. So if they've got to give, notice at their previous employer, or anything like that, then we won't be able to get them started and on board and bum on the chair by the 5 to 6 week window. He said, so we have to, in his argument, we have to work around the inadequacies and the shortcomings and dysfunction of the system by gaming the system. And the way we're going to game the system is pretend that these jobs are real when they're not. We just put out these adverts for jobs that may never exist, and if we don't get the headcount approval, we just tell these people, "Oh, well, you're unsuccessful. You didn't you didn't make the cut," and all this sort of stuff. So that's what they're doing here, but it's on a large scale, and he must have sort of detected my incredulity, and he said, "Well, everybody's doing it. It's happening everywhere. Everybody has to do this. This is not just us or not just me, but everybody's doing it." He pointed out the last employer he was at. He's probably been at this place, I guess, about a year, but he's saying his previous place did exactly the same. And I hadn't realised it was that widespread. I thought it was patchy and maybe an occasional here or there. But if his version of things is any indication, it's just happening all over the place. Now, add to this that they're running their adverts, and then everyone's got all the line managers and the HR managers. All these people have their flunky stooge friends in the human resource, the recruiters. So the recruiters will be, "Oh, you want me to run an advert? Obligation free if I get somebody really good." That type of line. "Oh, yeah, if you want to." And so they're running adverts. So this 50 jobs that don't exist, by the time the recruiters, the army of recruiters are all over it, it could be 200 or 300 jobs that are out there, none of which actually exist and may never exist. Now you look at that side of it, then you come to another side where we come across this more often, where short-term type contracts, this bidding for government contracts on a range of things, but including, say, infrastructure things and building roads and whatever. So we get involved in that on a fairly frequent basis, really. So what we've noticed is, and again, they're unabashed and unashamed in this, is that when they bid for a contract, and which they may or may not win, or a subcontract again, which they may or may not win, they look at, well, if we win this contract, we're going to need 100 floor sweepers or 100 engineers or 100 whatever, and we're going to need 100. So what we'll do is, this is before they've won the contract or before they've got any inkling whether they have or haven't won it. They just advertise all those jobs. They don't say that they just express your interest if you're thinking, we may have a job coming. They don't do that. They advertise as a real job right now that's live, and there's a desk and a chair waiting for you. So apply for. But in fact, it's not. These people are advertising jobs that don't exist. Now they may exist if they win the contract. Or win the tender or whatever, but they don't exist currently. But they're advertised, and again, you get the same multiplier effect. The recruiters then are all over it, and they're running their adverts. So one advert for a job that doesn't exist can turn into 5 or 10 adverts for a job that doesn't exist. Now, this is how many. Say 6 major companies are bidding for the government contract. And they're all going to need 30 or 40 people each if they win the contract. Some of them have got plenty of staff on board already, but if they win that contract, these are the extra people they're going to need. So 200, 300 jobs are being advertised, and then with all the recruiters going, this can be now over 1,000 jobs that are being advertised. Again, these are jobs that don't exist, and only one company is going to win the contract. So this idea that any of these jobs, or even a small proportion of them, are real is of course just pie in the sky. Now, add to this the burn and churn adverts that say people like recruiters are running, or companies that like to, especially the big, the cool brand name companies like the Googles or whatever. They're constantly running adverts that are airy-fairy, that have got no details. You will be a leader in social change, all that sort of stuff. And you look at those adverts, and there's a lot of them. Then how many adverts are real? Now, the Australian government recently, and other Western governments, it's not unique to Australia, have been crowing about this. Well, we may be bringing in a lot of people, mass migration, but the number of vacancies, as in job vacancies, keeps on increasing. So that just shows that all these people coming in are walking straight into jobs because there's such a critical worker shortage, a critical skills shortage, which is an absolute grotesque untruth, by the way. Jobs are being outrageously subdivided, and peasant wage jobs are abound, increasing on the basis that they're working in takeout food and they're living 20 to a 2-bedroom apartment and being brought in as peasants. So half of their 3/4 of their income their supposed income is taken up in accommodation and food. Those aren't real jobs. But so there's been an explosion in those jobs, but that's not an indication of a healthy economy producing jobs that pay enough to afford, so you can afford to pay the rent and put food on the table. That's quite the opposite. So when I did an analysis anyway and construction is meant to be the big thing. Construction. We need construction workers, which is again an absolute outrageous and grotesque, horrible untruth. But those are the lies that the whole Western world and their globalist masters are propaganda machine are peddling. So now in Sydney, this is paying the average wage and above. So in Sydney, there's 150 plus construction jobs that appear on a daily basis in Sydney, give or take. It could be 140 one day, 160 the next, but around that. So I rounded out at 150. Now, and this again, average wage and above. So we're not talking big bucks here. And it's only 150 a day. Now, if I then go down and break up the duplicate adverts, that is where a company is running, say, just the one job, but they're taking 3 slots in the job board, so it's 3 separate adverts, even though it's one job. Then you look at it's not hard to tell. Then you look at the recruiters that are advertising for that as well, and take it out. Then 150 jobs very quickly becomes 38. So 38 jobs a day. Now, of those, some of them look suspiciously dependent on they're waiting to see if they win a contract or not. So those jobs don't exist. So my take is that 150 advertised jobs is in reality at best 20 jobs for a city of 6 million people. So 20 jobs in that category, and it's just that category construction, but it's only 20 jobs for fuck's sake. So that's nothing for a population of 6 million. So this idea that there's a whole number of vacancies in or a huge demand for workers paying the average wage and above is nonsense, absolute nonsense. And if you look at the average number of applicants, even for highly skilled jobs, you're looking at there's for a high skill technical job, it's very easy now to have 20, 30, 40, 50 applicants. So this idea that there's some sort of skills or worker shortage is nonsense. There's a shortage of people that are prepared to work for deplorable conditions, instant mobilization and things like that, deplorable conditions and for piss poor money. But that's the only, and those people all exist in an artificial economy an economy that can't compete in the open marketplace. So these are considerations, but I was quite surprised at the extent of this pre-advertising roles that might exist. Now, back in the day when I first had to sign off on job ads, this is pre-internet, by the way, where I had to first sign off on job adverts, the line managers had to come to me and say, well, why are we going to spend $5,000? This is for executive roles, $5,000 for a feature advert, because that's how much it used to cost then, $5,000 for a feature advert, if the job wasn't real. So I would go, and I had this done to me also. I would stringently go over the requirements here, say, well, do we really need this job? Is it a real job? Are we just fishing? Are we just having a look, see what's out there? Or, it has to be a real job, a real requirement. It has to be completely budgeted for, and everything. This can't be any half-assed. Maybe we might hire someone, maybe we don't, could be, none of that. It had to be absolutely real. Otherwise, because $5,000 was a decent sum of money. Now you can put that same advert online today for $200 or $300. So that changed economics, hasn't increased efficiency. It's actually produced an entire industry of laziness and half-assed bullshitness in advertising jobs that don't exist. $5,000 a throw, you couldn't afford to advertise jobs that didn't exist. It had to be a real job. But when it's $200 or $300 at risk, then it's, who cares? And jobs that don't exist are being advertised. So cheap employment advertising, touted as a huge boon and wow, this is going to revolutionize the industry. It has. It's revolutionized in the way that now jobs that don't exist are everywhere. In fact, they're by far and away now the majority of jobs on the job board, and that's scary. You've been fantastic today. Your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.